All right, this video is designed to help you make your graph for the Observing Human Traits lab. We're going to start by opening up a Google Sheets. If you want to do this on Excel, that's fine, but it's going to be slightly different, all of the tools and buttons you're going to need to click. So I've opened up my Google Sheets. That was just in my Drive. You can also get there by clicking the little dot Google Apps, and then you'll have a drop down to Sheets. That should also work for you guys. So when I open up my Sheets, I'm going to title my document because that is a good skill to do. So Observing Human Traits Lab Data. Okay, and Google Sheets has this awesome little insert chart button that really, once we have our data in here, we can highlight it all and it's going to do some graphing magic for us. So I want to set this up with all of the data that I want my graph to capture. So this first column is going to be the trait, and I'm going to just put in some fake traits. So I know you guys have specific ones. This is where you would be typing in the names of all of those 9 traits that we observed in class. I'm just going to do 4 as an example here. Okay, so then we would have frequency of form 1 and frequency of form 2. Just a little pro tip here. If you are super OCD like me, the more you can have great punctuation and capitalization and everything, the easier it's going to be for you to put titles on your graph and axes labels later. So take the time to make a really nice table as we're doing here so that you have less work to do later. Okay. So at this point, I have my trait and then my titles for my 2 axes that I'm going to have. So I'll have trait on one axis, and then I'll have the frequency of form 1 and frequency of form 2 are going to be my 2 bars for each trait. So I'm just going to put in some fake data, but at this point you would be going in and populating this little data table with your actual data from the lab that we collected as a class. Okay, so hopefully your graph will look or your table, excuse me, will look something like this. And this is where we do the graph magic. So I'm clicking into the first box trait, and I'm just going to drag and then unclick once I've gotten to that last box. And I'm going to come over here to the insert chart button, click it, and it might take a little bit to load, so give it a sec. And it should pop up a graph that looks something like this, and we'll troubleshoot if yours doesn't look like that. So the first thing is we want to make this look like APA style. And so I came over to customize and then chart and axes titles, and an APA graph doesn't actually have a title here. So we are going to get rid of that. I'm just clicking onto it and then deleting that, and that should move up my graph. I'm also going to change and make sure that I have axes labels for both my Y and my X. So we're going to do horizontal axes title, and then I can come down here and enter this. This would be the frequency. And frequency doesn't really have a unit, but we'll just do percentage in parentheses. Okay, and then I want to, if you don't have a vertical axes title, you would click into this box up here, vertical axes title, and we could rename this if we needed to, but right now I grabbed that from my table, so we're all good that we have that. If you want to switch your chart type for some reason, if you had a pie graph or a line graph come up, you can click into setup chart type, and then you'll be able to switch your graph type. I'm actually going to switch to a column chart. I think it's just a little bit easier to read that way, and it actually popped off my other axes label, so I need to go back and add that back in. So frequency, percentage, and then I need to get rid of table. I also want to move my legend over to the side. I don't like having it up here, so I'm gonna, still in customize, I'm gonna go to legend, and then I should be able to click under position here, right. Okay, so now it's off to the side there. That's perfect. If you wanted to do it on the bottom, you could do that. I just think it looks nice off here. Okay, so now we have our graph, and at this point, you can hopefully see your data very well. And we're just going to click into the graph again, click these three little dots in the corner, and say copy chart. And that is going to allow us to go and copy and paste it into our results section. So hopefully you have a results section of your lab write-up going here. But now that I am in my results section, I can paste that graph in. And so if you get this pop-up, link to spreadsheet is going to keep the graph that you're pasting into the document and the graph that you have in your Google Sheets linked together. So if you make any changes to your Google Sheet, you will have the option to update it in your Google document. So I like that option, but it's just good to keep in mind in case you go and do something with it, you might mess up your Google Doc as well. So here's my results graph in there. And I'm also going to add a figure caption to this graph. So the figure caption in APA style goes underneath the graph, and I want to be left aligned, and I'm just going to say figure 1 period. And then this is my graph title. So I know we're used to putting the graph title at the top of our graph up here, but really in APA they have figures, and there's a figure number. This is my first graph, so it's figure 1. And then my title could be something like frequency of different forms of traits. Okay, so your title or your figure caption needs to be descriptive of what your graph is showing, and a great way to do that is to include the axes labels, so your independent and dependent variables, in this case frequency of traits. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful in making your graph, and let me know if you have any questions.